So this is kind of a scoop. We have the one and only in the flesh QC Ale Girl, the local blogger, right?
Yes.
And I say local, although people all around the world read your opinions on beers.
Well, I get people that make comments from other countries, but I'm pretty sure it's just spam.
Okay, so you get a lot of like Nigerian princes and stuff like that.
Yes, it's very flattering.
Hey, at least they're reading the blog. QC Ale Girl, we're here at O'Keefe's because of this event that's going on, and you're kind of a big deal around here.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I'm definitely very interested in the local craft beer scene here in the Quad Cities, whether it's commercial or home brews.
How did you get started? Going from, I assume, more of a bigger perspective, more of a macro, or have you always had a thing for craft beer?
I think that we're very lucky in the Quad Cities that we have so many different breweries producing at different sizes and different levels. So I think it's a combination of the love of beer, but also the love of the Quad Cities.
You're right that there's something very different about the scene here than you would expect, right?
I absolutely agree. I think the bi-state part of it is one thing, and I think every single brewery in the area has a different ideal of what they want to produce, so it lends to a creative opportunity for lots of different people.
I was giving you a little grief before the camera started rolling because you're QC Ale Girl, but that's clearly a stout in your hand.
Right, but I told you that every stout is an ale, but not every ale is a stout.
Okay, explain that to me because you just broke my brain.
Well, the number one discerning factor, I think, in beers is that you either have ales or lagers, and that's determined on the kind of yeast that you use when you make a beer. And then grains change the color and the style, and hops change different flavors and aromatics. Water has something to do with it, too, but I don't want to bore you with all of the science behind it.
No, this isn't boring at all. So every stout is an ale, but not every ale is a stout.
Correct.
Okay. That seems like something I should have like needle pointed and put up on the wall of my home.
It's funny because I have a couple of pillows that do say that.
Do you really?
No.
At your house? Of course you do. You're a maniac. Is like everything in your house just all beer related?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close. I also like cats and yoga too. So.
Oh, you're a real catch, aren't you, QC Ale Girl?
Some might say, but some might say not.
Right on. So Quad City Craft Beer Week is why we're here.
Yeah.
By the time you guys are seeing this, it's long gone. When is Quad City Craft Brew Week?
Craft Beer Week this year is May 16th to the 21st.
I imagine it's always in May then.
It is. It's typically the first the first week in May, but we kind of changed it up a little bit because this year now Quad City Craft Beer Week is the same week as American Craft Beer Week. So kind of uniting what's going on a national level here locally.
Kind of like a unified scene sort of thing.
Absolutely, as much as it possibly can be.
And there are events going on all over town.
Yes, every day of the week through Sunday.
QCL Girl, thanks for the time.
Thank
Keep
you
up
so
the good
much.
work. She's working hard in the trenches, so you don't have to. Boy, something sure smells delicious. Brian, what is going on here?
We're brewing an Oktoberfest today with Mugs Club. It's a collaborative between Mugs and You Brew. Pretty tasty, and it smells great.
Now, as we're doing this, it's May. You don't usually have Marzens. It seems to be more of an Oktoberfest thing, but you can have Marzens anytime you want, right?
That's the beauty of home brewing. You don't have to worry about seasonality and availability.
Right. You're not a slave to anyone's schedule but your own.
Yeah, that's correct.
I love them, a good Marzen, but trying to find them in the summertime, it's impossible. And then it's like they're available in September, and then you don't see them again for the year. You don't have to play that game.
That's correct. And we're using an ale yeast to make a lager. It's Charlie Papazian's house strain.
Charlie Papazian, the father of home brewing? Just learned that like a second before we started rolling. But
yeah, most folks started off with Joy of Home Brewing, the book, when they started off home brewing to get all the recipes and the step-by-step. So I thought I would commemorate today.
So this guy was a big deal who started. He basically came up with his own strain of yeast.
Yes, and he's one of the original founders of home brewing, started home brewing in the 70s.
See, I'm pretty sure I'm not wearing socks that match. It's crazy that there are people who can figure out strains of yeast.
Yes, that seems to be the new movement in home brewing too, isolating strains in your neighborhood. The last Zymergy magazine, it's a publication for home brewers. They went through 100 different strains where they isolated yeast from everything from grapes to bark, tree bark.
So there are home brewers that just scour their neighborhood looking for new, fun, exciting yeast.
Yes, the super geeky ones. And
it's quite a hobby, isn't it? What are you doing on Thursday? I can't do anything. I got to go comb the neighborhood looking for yeast.
Yeah, we're going to forage for yeast this weekend.
Have you ever forged? Have you ever yeast forged?
I have made some starters in my neighborhood, but I haven't gotten up the courage to make a beer yet with them.
Because
I just haven't gotten there. I think I'm just used to, these nice little vials that are all turnkey, and I know what I'm going to get. My background's in science, so I'm, the quantifying of everything.
there's so many people that we've met doing this show that have scientific backgrounds, and that really, I think, goes hand in hand because, I mean, what you're doing here is basically a big science project. You got to make sure you're doing everything correctly, right?
Yes. I tend to try to be more relaxed about it, though. When I prepare for it,
You don't seem like you're that uptight of a dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's correct.
So you're kind of chill, but you take a scientific approach to things.
Yes, it's more preparation and planning when I brew, but I try not to overthink everything. It's home brewing. Let's have fun with this. I don't have the pressures of commercial operation with $250,000 over my head.
If this wasn't fun, you wouldn't do it.
There are weeks where I say I think I'm overstepping my boundaries, brewing 3 days a week, and I'm like, wow, this is really feeling like a job. So there's a big separation there between commercial and home brewing, and I tend to like the pace, as you can tell.
So people that are home brewers or people that want to start home brewing, tell me about U-Brew, what that is.
That started 2 years ago, and initially we had our first classes here. Jason Gabriel, who recently branched off and started Man Cave Brew University, started teaching here. So that was 2 years ago. Memorial Day, we'll be rolling into year 3, and that's been a long process. It's just been, gaining speed, and then decided, hey, I think we need a real beer-centric home brewing store in the Quad Cities. And
I'm gonna tell you this. We're in a safe place. I feel like you and I are buds.
Yeah.
I feel like I can share something with you and you won't judge me.
We'll see.
Years ago, I got one of those kits. One of those kits you can get for a couple bucks to make your own beer. I won't mention the name of the product, but you know what I'm talking about. And I tried it, and I did everything as good as I could. I mean, I kept things completely sanitary. I followed the instructions to a letter, and it just was awful stuff.
And that's okay. I tell everybody, stick with it. You know how many steaks I've screwed up on the grill and how much money that's cost over the last 20 years? Like, stick with it. It's cooking. It takes time. You tweak some things. It's like anything takes practice, right?
So you have to have more of a stick-to-itive nature then.
Yeah.
Because where I was going with this was I assume that the stuff that you have at U-Brew is probably a little bit better stuff.
Yes.
Than what I got in my
We
kit.
have some pretty geeky stuff. We also supply to a lot of local brewers, and we've been part of a build-out for 2 nano breweries since we've opened. So, yes.
What's like the coolest thing I could get if I wanted to do a homebrew thing? What's like the coolest device right now that I could get at your store?
A pump or a refractometer. I think those were 2 devices that really upped my game. Being able to recirculate the mash, being able to push into the heat exchanger, and then having something where I could measure the sugar content as we're boiling to hit my original gravity before I go into the fermenter. So those were 2 big ones. Not the coolest stuff out there, because I have 40-gallon stainless steel fermenters that are pretty sweet too, but as far as useful additions to your
That's
your
where it's
brand.
at. The pump or the refractor?
The refractometer.
Okay. Brian, keep up the good work. Next on Brewed, another hotspot to get homebrew gear and a special collaboration celebration with the pros.